If you've ever wanted to learn how to easily layer guitar parts in your recordings, then this video is for you. It's not actually as difficult as it sounds, and in this video I'm going to share everything that you need to know. What is up everyone, my name is Harvey. Thanks so much for stopping by the channel where I post weekly content every Tuesday about all things guitar related, helping you guys navigate the wonderful world of guitar. If you are new around here and you're only checking out my channel now for the first time, then do consider hitting that subscribe button if you enjoy what you see. And if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. So, I am in full-on songwriting mode at the moment, and today I just thought I'd share with you a song that I'm currently working on. Stylistically, I guess it's similar to Ariel Posen meets maybe Born and Raised era John Mayer, so kind of folksy, rootsy, Americana, and I thought I would just kind of take you behind the scenes of the session, just break it down for you and show you how I approached writing, arranging and structuring the guitar parts. So, without further ado, let's jump into Logic and break this thing down. So before I play any notes, I think about the structure. In this song we've got an intro, verse 1, chorus 1, a pre-verse which is kind of like an instrumental break, then we have verse 2, chorus 2, and then finally an instrumental. The structure is important because it helps us map out the dynamics. We don't want to come out of the gates all guns blazing, we need to build and keep building throughout the song. If the intro and verse are too busy, then there is a chance that the chorus will become less impactful, and we basically need to avoid that at all costs. So we start with the intro. The acoustic guitar is recorded twice, so it's double tracked, and I've basically panned them left and right. Having an acoustic in stereo as opposed to mono just creates more width, which in turn creates more space in the middle for additional instruments, in this scenario, guitar parts. Now I like it when an intro just basically establishes the structure of the chord progression, so there's nothing too distracting, it's just the chords being played. Then as the verse comes in, we add an electric guitar part. Now the verse is the same progression as the intro, so we're just kind of seamlessly building the dynamic, and that electric guitar part is just mirroring the acoustic in terms of its chord voicings, and I've just chosen to pick it as opposed to strum it in the same pattern as the acoustic. Again, just to make sure that things aren't getting too muddy and everything has its place in the mix. It helps separate the two guitars sonically while still kind of remaining cohesive, which is really important. It adds an extra level of depth to the verse while still being sympathetic of any vocal that might be sung over the top of this. Next we move into the chorus. Now a great way to establish a chorus is to change up the feel. The chorus strumming pattern contrasts the verse and really lays into the downbeat, so we're kind of doing driving eighth notes really, just to kind of help drive things along. We've also added another instrument to the chorus, which is the Hammond organ. Now, basically I've sustained each chord throughout the bar with the Hammond, so it's basically only ever changing when a chord changes, and the rest of the time it's just sustaining and holding that note. And I've also changed up the drums in the chorus as well, so the drums have basically moved from the hi-hat to the ride cymbal, just to again help drive things along. So when thinking about a guitar part to sit in this section, we really need something that will slot between the acoustic and the Hammond. Now, because the acoustic is providing so much drive and the organ is providing a lot of depth and sustain, I think strumming chords in this section is probably just going to muddy things up and make things a little bit too busy. And we have to remember that there is another chorus later on, so we can't necessarily, use all of our tools at this point. We need to keep some things in reserve for later. So in this first chorus, I've decided to play some sixth intervals to outline each chord. We then have this chord change, which is, in my mind, a bit of a melodic moment in the chorus and really helps define the sound of the chorus. And I really wanted to emphasize that in the electric guitar part, just to support it and help it stand out. I think it's always really, really important to listen out for these little melodic moments that catch your ear and see if you can emphasize them in some way. So if you are sometimes struggling to think of a part, just think about what is already in the track and just see if there's a way that you can support it and bring it out of the mix a little bit further. Coming out of chorus 1, we have the pre-verse. In the pre-verse, the feel of the acoustic guitar switches from those kind of driving downbeats in the chorus to the same feel that we had earlier in the previous verse and in the intro. Now in this section, I wanted to do a short lead guitar break just to transition between the chorus and the verse. Because we are changing feel quite drastically, I didn't want it to be such a hard transition. So I thought having a little lead guitar break would just help with that transition and make it a little bit more seamless. Now, it's important to stress that this isn't a guitar solo, and I've not approached it as such. I think it's really, really important in this kind of context to not be too flashy and to think about playing simple melodic phrases that maybe are familiar or similar to the vocal in the verse. Now, in this particular track, there are no vocals on it yet, so when I'm kind of writing this little solo break, what I'm thinking in my head is what lines would be reminiscent to a potential verse melody, for example, and I'm just messing around on that kind of idea. So next we have verse 2, and for this verse I wanted basically one pattern that I could play continuously over every chord to really glue everything together. So I picked this voicing of the key center, and it's out of the way of the acoustic, and I've basically panned it to the left because, again, I didn't want to play the same kind of progression that I played in verse 1 because I want to basically keep the listener's interest and attention. So I'm switching things up and I'm thinking about a complementary part. Panning is super important. It's one thing coming up with a part, but where you choose to place that part in the mix really does help define its character. Now, this part that I've panned hard left also, in my mind, creates a little bit of tension because the listener might feel like there's something missing. We don't have the whole stereo image at this point. There is something missing in the right speaker. So that is another point to build from, and that's why I approached writing this next part. So halfway through the verse, again, because we're looking to build up to that second chorus that's coming up, I've added basically an upper extension of the same voicing that I used for the part that's panned hard left. Now in this upper extension, I've basically panned that in the opposite direction. So I panned that to the right, and then when you play them together, it basically creates that stereo image, and there's almost that resolution or that kind of release from the tension that we created in the first part. So for chorus 2, we've basically kept everything the same as chorus 1 in regards to the instrumentation. So the Hammond is still there, the drums and the acoustic are mirroring the same feel as the first chorus, and I've also kept the electric guitar part the same as the first chorus. I'm really conscious that I don't want this to become too cluttered, because I think it's really important to be able to hear every instrument and every part within the mix. It needs to have room to breathe basically, and we don't want any conflict. So my ear again is immediately drawn to that chord modulation that we emphasised in the first chorus, and to me it does stand out, but there is a way that we can emphasise this further. Now a great way to do this is with harmony. Now because the Hammond is occupying a lot of the upper mids and higher frequencies, and because the acoustic and the electric guitar are in maybe the lower mids and lower frequencies, I've basically opted to harmonise the part in a slightly lower register. It just keeps it away from the other instruments and from the organ, and I think it actually adds quite a lot of depth to this particular chord change, which again just emphasises it further. Now coming out of the chorus we have the instrumental, and the instrumental is played over the verse progression. But what I've done is I've continued the Hammond out of chorus 2 into the instrumental, just so it continues to build and keep that momentum going. I've also made sure that the drums stay on the ride cymbal rather than transitioning back to the hi-hats, again because we're building. Now at this point we don't want to take a step back. We want to keep things driving along to support the solo. Now whatever solo you play, whether that's on guitar or keyboard, is always going to be basically the focal point of this particular section, and we don't want to play anything that is going to distract from that. It's really important that there's no conflict in a solo section, and whatever is played is purely there to support that solo instrument. So I had some decisions to make about what to put in this verse section. Because we had in verse 2 those kind of like arpeggiated parts that were panned left and right, I thought that might be too much and is maybe a bit too much of a statement. So instead I've opted to use the electric guitar part that we used in verse 1, which again just follows the chord progression slightly more conventionally and isn't sticking out of the mix too much basically. In my mind, that creates a solid foundation to solo over. So again, just being sympathetic to the section and making sure that we don't have anything that's competing for space in this particular section. So there we have it guys. I hope you found this video helpful, or at the very least interesting. Hopefully there are some things that you can take away from this video and incorporate into your own recordings. And if you enjoy this kind of format and this kind of video, then just let me know, because I would love to do more. As always, thank you so much for checking out this video. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I look forward to seeing you all next Tuesday for another video. Take care guys.